Today we're going to talk about fishing lures. And we're going to talk about, since this time of year, we're going to first talk about topwater lures. Topwater lures are designed to stay on the top or fish between about the top to about 3 feet. So right in that sweet spot, these lures are either going to sit on top or dive just about 1 foot or so under the water. The reason we want to do that is that right now, fish are hitting the surface and it looks like a bubbling effect. So we call it a boil. So we want to use certain lures like this. This is called a whopper plopper. I know, it's such a cool name, whopper plopper. And see that little tail? It spins. It's like a propeller. It actually has a concave type of angle to it. So as this goes through the water on the top, this turns and it makes a gurgling sound like and it goes all the way through the water. Now the fish hear that, and it also has a rattle in it, so it really catches their fish attention. Now when the fish hit this, they come out of the water and hit it. It's one of the coolest things to see. Now, whopper ploppers are designed to be pulled through the water in sort of a medium to fast pace. Go slow, not with these. And bass and stripers will just hit it. Even though it's going real fast. It's one of the coolest lures that you can have. There's a lot of noisy lures that you can have on the top part of the water, like different things like rattle traps and things like that. And so that's called a whopper plopper. And you can get these anywhere from a few bucks to $45. I actually sell these for $5 each. So if you ever want one, just comment down below or send me an email, and we will. I'll get you some to you. Now we go to what's called a shallow dive jerkbait or crankbait. See this? See the lip right here? That lip, the smaller it is, the shallower it goes. This is going to go about 12 inches under the water. So it's going to stay right towards the surface of the water. And these come in all sorts of varieties. You're going to see these probably one of the most popular on the market. Another great website, although I do sell these only for a few dollars each. Another really good, probably one of the best companies called Sixth Sense. Go to sixthsense.com. I'll put that in the bottom. And you'll find some of the best looking jerkbaits on the market at reasonable prices. This one's got a little feather tail. I don't know if you can see it right there. It sort of sparkles. When this comes through the water, this actually moves and gives it a swimming action. Again, very cool. And the fish go for it. Now, if these guys, which are bass baits or striper baits, when they breed, if they bred, they produce a little guy. This is a baby or a micro jerkbait. This one will stay towards the surface about 8 inches, and it'll just stay up there. Now, the neat thing about a little micro bait, you can see it by its size. It's really tiny. This one's 4 inches long. This one's about an inch and a half long. The neat thing about this, yes, bass will hit it, but not real big bass. But you're going to find panfish like crappie and bluegill and other smaller fish. They're going to love hitting this. And this is one that you should be using for the best eating fish. Now, if we want to go deeper than 3 feet, what do we need? We need a bigger paddle. See that paddle? Compare that to this paddle. Big difference. This is a medium diving one. If it was a deep diver, it'd be big and wide. So this particular paddle will cause this to come down about 10 feet under the water. Now, what we want to do is get down towards the fish. So we want to be able to use the proper lure to dive down and go to where the fish are. So you'll probably play with a few of these. If you don't have a fish finder, You'll use a shallow one or a deep one and go down. If you're not hitting the fish, you change your bait and you go to a different setting in depth. And you'll find those fish are sitting right there. So those are called jerk or crankbaits. Now, I hooked a huge striper on this one just recently. This is called a lipless crank. No lip. There's no lip on it. And listen to the rattle. It's a very deep sounding rattle. As opposed to these really don't have a really deep sounding rattle. This one does. So what ended up happening is that I threw this in a boil of a bunch of stripers. And as soon as it hit the water, they heard it. And a huge striper grabbed it. And it bent my pole some 90 degrees. It was a fight. And this right here, lipless cranks, work really, really well. It didn't get a chance to go down far, but they will sink. They weigh about an ounce, and they will sink. Notice that they're also flat. So when this thing actually goes through the water, it does this. It goes this way. And while it's doing this, it's making a cucaracha noise. So it just goes through, and it makes a cucaracha noise. And then, last but not least, on our swimmers, or on our lures that we'll talk about, this is called a swimming lure. Now the reason being is that it does this in the water. And it will cause this fish to move just like a real fish, and it really does work. And it swims just like this. And it'll go through the water, and it looks like a real fish. This one weighs about 2 ounces. This is a heavy lure. And for bait casting, this is great. You can get this thing way out there. And this will sink. But believe it or not, I haven't seen it sink all the way to the bottom. So it actually stays above the bottom. Some of these, I don't know why it doesn't go to the bottom, but it doesn't. And I'm able to retrieve it in a medium reel or a fast reel like you would a whopper plopper. And that will make it swim and hopefully be attractive to a fish. Now they don't have any rattles in them, but because of that movement, the tail does make a rattle, and that will get their attention. So next, we're going to talk about soft lures. Probably the #1 lure on the market is a soft lure. And soft being this type of material. It's kind of rubbery, but they say it's plastic, but it's rubbery. And notice that this one is called a jerkit. A local gentleman makes these. And what ends up happening when you jerk it, it goes ahead and swims. And when you jerk it, that actually will attract bass. If you just pull it really fast through the water, and it goes, that will attract stripers. It's got a real neat sparkling effect too, to refract light. Now the neat thing about these is that you would actually put them on a hook. We'll talk about hooks another day, about how to put these on a hook. You'll also find these particular worms. See how it's sort of tapered end, and it's a flat head? So this one right here, we can put down onto a hook and just have the tail out. And we can do that, it'll go ahead and shake. But we like to use these on a hook that sort of sits on the bottom, and it wiggles. So then you see something like these. They're called flukes. This one's a little prettier of a fluke, but it's got eyes. It looks like a fish. Not all flukes have an eye, but it's got the silvery, and it's even got a black top, so it actually looks like a shad. This one actually would get the attention. See the tail on it? That allows this bait to move like a fish. And we would add this to a jig head. Add that to a jig head, and then as the jig head came through the water, just like this would go ahead and move. And that's that one. Now there's other ones called swimmers. See that tail? This is a plastic lure that swims. This paddle tail, that paddle tail, will make the tail just go crazy. So this one, I could do what's called, and I'll cover that in another video, it's called a drop shot. You can hang right on the line and a weight down here, and I can go ahead and make it wiggle. Let's see what we got now. This is a small swimmer. Again, this is great for crappie or panfish, although I could see a bass grabbing this too. And then there's spinners. You were probably brought up with these things. They're called spinners. Little rooster tail. You got a little bit of a design right in the middle. And then you've got a spinner. When you pull this through, the spinner goes ahead and spins, refracts light. We used these a lot when we were kids. Trout would go for it, crappie, bluegills, just about anything. This is sort of a good standby, is a spinner. Spinners will work for virtually any fish that you want. This is another type of spinner. See the skirt? Sort of looks like covering sort of a bluegill sort of looking skirt. And this spinner will go ahead and spin right here. Now to make this work even better, we put a soft bait on it. And we would have this wiggle as we pulled it through the water. Again, with this one's really nice too. It's pretty much weedless. So it's actually going to be pulled through there, and it's going to be weedless. So those cover the baits for now. So in our next episode, we're going to talk about how to rig them onto our rods. So hopefully tune in to the next video.